Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you coming here. This is going to be the fireside chat with Alex Wellen from MotorTrend. So, Alex, thank you for being here. I think a lot of people probably know the MotorTrend brand super well because it's 70 years old, which is incredible, right? It's an iconic brand, but I don't know that many people know about the MotorTrend Plus service. Yeah. So maybe we could start off just by saying what you do at MotorTrend, and then tell us a little bit about the MotorTrend Plus service. We do have some slides we're going to share about the reach that MotorTrend has, how many viewers they reach, how many consumers and households. And it's also incredible just how many brands are under your umbrella as well. So maybe talk to that.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dan. I'm so glad to be here too. MotorTrend was something that your grandfather had as a magazine years ago. It goes back to 1949. This Hot Rod magazine. We have so many different brands, but you're right. It's a little bit misunderstood. I mean, many people know it from YouTube. If you watch the show Roadkill, if you've seen Top Gear America Now or some of the other shows, we have a TV network. We'll talk about that. We have a streaming service. We still have the magazines, but it's a global kind of brand that addresses all kinds of all things cars, right? So when you look at all those brands, we've kind of franchised it on the left. In the middle, we have car fans. If you love off-roading, trucks, carcraft, if you're wrenching, if you're racing, there's such a range that the MotorTrend group overall has had, and we feel really lucky to kind of be stewards of that brand. And then, of course, we have all these shows. We'll talk about them too, but we have 8,000 episodes. If you like cars, basically, if you know anyone who likes cars,
you're the place to go.
Yes, we're the only place. There's nowhere else you can get all that content.
And how does Discovery tie into this? Because some people...
It's a joint venture and Discovery owns a majority stake of the company. So
that's where the Discovery name comes from. So we have some of the brands on the screen here, and this is only partial.
That's right.
Even all the brands.
Yeah. So we have... I mean, really, if there's any type of fan that you are of any type of car, that really fits into the middle. If you need help buying a car, definitely we do that as well. But then there's all these great shows, wrenching on cars, racing on cars, repairing them, restoring them. So if you look at this, you just might be surprised at how much content we have. We have millions of photographs. We have magazines that go back. Again, 71 years and hundreds of thousands of pages. We review every single car, every single model that's out there.
53,000 cars have been reviewed? Wow.
And that's and when you go to our site too, you can kind of do a pull down menu and look at every kind of make and model, so you can figure out exactly what it is that you want and how much it costs to own it for 5 years.
Wow, and you actually test cars as well.
That's right. So, well, a lot of people talk about cars. You see it on TikTok and YouTube and a lot of places, but we have our hands on the first cars. I just got a text that we rolled the Rivian in, the new Rivian, and we're doing some testing around that right now. The truck, which is fun to drive. And
how does one get a job like that, testing cars?
Yeah.
I know a few people in the room in particular.
I know. Well, if you want a job, you should. I'm easy to find. You should tell me if you like cars. I mean, I think that's the conversation that I wanted to have with you. Is that there's so many streaming services right now. It's so expensive to get your video services too. But what we think the way through is, yes, give them all that video, but do a lot more. There's so many other things you can do if you're a passion category.
And I like the fact you have a diversified revenue stream. You're not
Me too.
making money just from video, which is
well,
good.
And ads are underrated. I mean, I think we're going to talk about the future of all this, but I think what we're seeing more than ever is that ads are more relevant, and the more relevant the ad, the better. But the answer isn't just create all this content, spend a fortune, drop it on the service, drop it all at the same time, and never have an ad. That model won't work.
So in the description, we talked about some of the unspoken rules for the business. So can you just describe that in terms of what really that means?
I think that if you think you know where it's going or how it's going to work, you're wrong. Right, and I'd be the first to admit that. So if you thought binging it was the only way, if you thought no ads, as I mentioned, was the only way, if you thought that you could just take content from one platform and put it on another, and then have people pay for it and celebrate you, that turns out it's not the case. So I think if you channel your inner customer, what is it that they want, and how do you deliver it to them? What we have learned, which is really amazing, is that one, when you take content and you just say, okay, I'm going to take all this content from linear or from YouTube and put it onto a direct-to-consumer business, that doesn't necessarily always work, right? It goes in both directions. We found that some of our original content in our service worked really well on linear. So we've learned that the windowing that you might suspect about putting it on digital first and then linear, or putting it on linear and then digital, it actually has been very different than that.
And how much of that do you actually test in terms of the bundling, linear versus streaming? Like, are you running a lot of tests like some services where it's what's the price point, what's the packaging, how much content do you get?
We do. I mean, I think for the most part, we want to make sure that the people who are paying for it individually get it first or at exactly the same time as linear. But we found that a lot of the people that are on TV are very different than the people on streaming, and they want different things, and they want different programs, and they want different formats. And so it turns out that there's room for everyone, and you don't have to pick, which is really, really powerful. So we're constantly doing tests with acquisition marketing, and then of course on linear we're always doing tests as well too, and promotions, and we're cross-referencing them, and we're doing spin-offs of show that are more available and are ad-free or binge-worthy on the platform.
And do you think of linear supporting streaming, or do you think of streaming supporting linear, or is it both?
I think it'd be a mistake to pretend that there is no more linear. I mean, linear is a massive audience. We just did Mecum auctions for Kissimmee in Florida. We had 6.3 million people come in. It was 78% more than they had on NBC SN. So, I mean, linear is very relevant. It's very much there. But if you want something on demand, or if you want to catch up on a series, or if you don't want ads, then streaming really works well. So I know it's kind of a lame answer, but the reality is that it's a false choice.
Okay, and we've got on the screen right here just some of the platforms that you're on for streaming. Just real quickly, are there any platforms that are really more of a core focus of you because of the habits of your particular audience?
Well, I think that, a lot of streaming services, if you look at the smaller passion category ones, you'll see that they grew on these they grew on these B2B, like Amazon channels and now Roku channels and Apple channels, and we are definitely present there. But most of our customers are directly on our app, which is great.
So it's D2C mostly.
Exactly. And so that means that we can do so much more when it's our app, right? We can offer them all kinds of different services and products and different things we could do because we have that direct relationship.
So talking about linear versus streaming, some fascinating numbers here. I didn't realize this was so big. So maybe just break down a few of these for the audience.
Yeah, by raise of hands, are people surprised at all by what MotorTrend is and how involved it is? I mean, people generally think of us as a magazine, or they think of us as a TV network, but I don't think they realize that we're in 75 million homes for television. We have 165 million people who come to our websites that we own and operate, that come to our websites that we build. We have huge social followings. We do events throughout the year. We have publications. So the brand means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But it's one where we really want to reach anyone and everyone who's interested in traveling on, four wheels for the most part.
I love the idea here just in terms of what you guys have built over time, because as somebody who's trying to build a community myself over 25 years, I had print, I had audio, I have in-person conferences, you create content online, blogs, podcasts, and whatnot, and I'm looking here, you have 750,000 people attend annual events. That's where you're building loyalty. You're showcasing the other products and services you have. Would you consider that as far as an integrated marketing strategy of pulling users from other things that you're already doing to the streaming platform? So are you bundling that where it's a way of, hey, you come to the event, you get the platform for free for a month, or how does that work?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a mistake to have everyone pointed to streaming. I think there was a time where everyone felt like no matter what you do, if you watch TV, if you get print, if you go to an event, if you like to work on cars, you want video. I think that's probably overstating it. But I do think that we do make it very easy for people, and video is the most natural place to have a digital connection with us initially. And we deliver so much video so well and so comprehensively that if you have even just a little bit of interest in cars, that most of our attendees and most of our kind of legacy customers have found interest in the streaming side of things too.
We didn't discuss this earlier when we were chatting before prepping, but I'd love to know, just as far as the digital ecosystem goes for video, what is the most challenging piece? Is it content creation? Is it getting it into all the right formats and wrapping files for all the different devices? What do you see as the biggest headache there? Lack of standards in the market?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges, I think, as you look at it. I think, I'd want to be thoughtful about it. Certainly there's so much great content out there, and I think we can all relate to it, and connecting it with people who would be interested in it is very complex. So yes, we have acquisition marketing and ways to target people, and it costs money to acquire them and to do it at a cost that's efficient for your general LTV. But I think, we have some incredible programs and content and deliverables, and I think the thing that I want more than anything else is for them to see it.
Distribution.
Right, and be aware of it too.
That's an interesting answer, because if you think about a lot of, I don't want to say competitors, but OTT services that are doing different types of content and ask them that question, the number one thing they'll say is content creation. But you're creating so much content already across all these different channels, repurposing it. So it would make sense that it's distribution. That doesn't really surprise me.
And it's just people are so quick to kill a show, and in reality, you may not have enough data to make that determination.
Interesting. Where do you see the future of streaming going for you?
Oh, well, for us, it's different than where I think the future, I think, look, at the heart of it is the customer. I know you hear that all day long, and that's what everybody's preaching, but you really have to go to the customer first for the answers, and the customer will tell you. For the bigger services, for the Netflix, for the HBO Max, for Discovery Plus, all of these big services, there it is about content, to some extent tonnage, how much you're going to be available to, whether it's ad-free, whether it's ubiquitous, right? So you really have to deliver on that. I think for a passion category like us, we have to deliver more than video. So yes, we have to do video really well, but we need to help them buy their parts or go to the events or have community or have utility. I think you said it on community. I think community and utility are central to a passion category. If you can create community, whether it's virtual or in real life, if you can create utility where you can help people, whether it's through video or something else, I think people will pay you year after year after year, and especially around cars, which they love.
Well, they're so loyal.
Yeah.
They're so loyal. When it comes to the consumer experience, have you seen anything that's been unique on mobile? Because you're obviously creating also a lot of short form content, right? And I could see the cars being a big thing, short form. A lot of the stuff I get sent from people is short form. Do you have an advantage there in terms of mobile, because it's such an engaging audience? It's a small screen, you're in front of it all the time. Does that give you a benefit in terms of how you're creating content?
I do think it gives us an advantage. If you want to work on your car, it's not a bad idea to have a mobile device nearby, right, where you can make reference to how-to videos, or you can see videos, or you can get entertained that way too. I think that device in your hand, that device in all of our pockets or right in front of us right now, is what we use for everything. So if you have any passion, if you can think of any passion that you have, it doesn't have to be cars. Ultimately, you're probably banging on that phone 2, 3, 4, 10 times a day with an eye towards that passion. And so that's what I want. I want MotorTrend to be that Pavlovian response. I want you to go in there on a daily habit and follow the cars that matter most to you. For example, Dan, and everyone in this room, there are 5 cars probably right now you could think of that define you, right? Your dad or mom had it. You saw it in a movie for the first time. You wanted to own it. You owned it. You hate it. You've driven it. You've raced it. Those 5 cars, if I knew the 5 cars for each of you or anybody watching right now, there's so much we could do for that person. We could entertain them. We could empower them. We could inspire them. But you would want to I believe you'd want to interact with that service on a daily basis and track the cars that matter most to you.
I wasn't downstairs when we were setting up the streaming experience and logging in with MotorTrend. So we do have MotorTrend streaming service downstairs. You can come check it out. So thank you for the accounts.
You bet.
We want people to be able to see that. So I wasn't there when the guys were logging in. And were you actually asking any questions like that on the login of what cars do you like the most, or?
We should, and we are, and we're doing that on the onboarding right now. We don't right now, but okay, you would see it's a very natural thing. I think building that car graph, that identity graph of the cars that matter most to you would be the right way in. What I want is to offer people more than video, though. So when you go through that process with us, I think if you give us information, we have to give you something back. And I think video is the start, but I want to give you every single article, every single image, every single recall, every single person that loves that car. So I think that's what we're working on right now is what does a club or a membership or being part of the MotorTrend universe look like, and how do you look at it through the eyes of the cars that you want? But that's absolutely right, Dan. That's exactly what we want to do, and that's what we're working on.
Because you're so targeted, because it's so focused, I know we're not here to talk about CPM rates and whatnot, but Are you seeing on average a higher CPM rate than others in the industry because of your focus on targeting?
Absolutely, and
would think so.
we do multi-million-dollar deals with all the OEMs because they know that we can reach those customers really effectively and efficiently, and that we're more than just a streaming video service. I mean, I think that would be my message, and you already alluded to it, that you need to be diversified. If you're really going to be a holistic brand, you have to, sure, offer video, and you have to offer that streaming, but you also need to connect them with advertisers that can provide them either with buying that car or buying those parts or having that lifestyle or whatever the case may be. So we've definitely seen an increase in the overall direct sold CPMs.
Makes sense. We're going to get to questions in a minute, so if you have one, just raise your hand. I'll repeat it to the audience. I wanted to ask a quick question about smart TVs because we're hearing a lot more from long form providers that smart TVs are the device a lot more people are viewing video on as opposed to, I shouldn't say as opposed to, sorry, in addition to streaming, dedicated streaming boxes. I'm just curious what you think of smart TVs because if your content is maybe shorter form, maybe more of that, can you say like X percentage of all videos are consumed on smaller screen versus large? I don't know if that's a stat you can give out or allowed to give out.
No, I have no problem. I just want to make sure I know the information. I mean, we track very carefully, obviously, what consumption is on every single platform, and we still see the majority of our long-form content consumed on connected TVs, obviously, and desktop. But for mobile, almost all of it's being consumed. I think 60 to 7% of it for short form is being consumed on mobile.
Okay, so smart TVs are still important for you in terms of.
I would also add, if we're talking about long-form content, our fans, the people who watch our content, are very, very loyal. So they'll, on average, complete 90% of the content, on average.
90%?
90%.
Wow.
We have a 90% completion rate. They watch about 10 plus hours per month or 2.5 hours per week. And they watch more than 30 videos per month.
Wow.
So it's a very dedicated audience. But again, I think looking at a direct-to-consumer relationship through the lens of video only for passion categories is too narrow.
Yeah, agreed. You're working on some projects right now. What can you talk to about them? I don't really know what that means, projects, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Special projects, but what
Well,
are you
you know
working
a lot about special projects, I mean, from your previous life, yes. But yeah, I think everything is in the execution, so I'm happy to talk a little bit about what you're doing because it's so hard to actually do something, as you know. I think the things that we want to do is we want to expand, as I've alluded to already, the relationship with anyone who has any even curiosity around cars. You don't have to be a car fan to still need MotorTrend. If you need to buy a car right now, if you wanted to buy an EV right now, how confusing would that be? Range anxiety, you know, is it capable of does it have all of the features that you're looking for? Everything from the design to just the infrastructure. So we really want to help you, anyone buy a car and help you buy an EV car. I think that's on the left side of it, right? So that's on the, hey, help me in this buying experience. And I think there's a lot that MotorTrend could do because if MotorTrend says it, then it gives you some confidence that it's the truth. And we could probably even you'd probably even pay. In fact, I know you would pay, based on the research, for certain services to help make it just so easy, particularly around EV. So that's on the left, all the way to this side, to the left. And then to the right, I would say, what about the fans? What more can we do for the fans? Can we do more events? Can we get them together online? Can we help them with the parts that they buy? Can we help them with the things that they're building or wrenching on or tuning? So I think, to me, continuing to create our content, windowing it efficiently across linear and digital and fast, as I heard in the last session, and internationally. So you create this content, you monetize it 4 times over, and then great, that pays for itself over the course of 2 or 3 years as you amortize those costs. And then over here, you actually do those 2 things we talked about, community and utility, and you really deliver something of value that people will pay for or at least register for.
So long time ago, back in the early days of the internet, I was doing a lot of work with Indy 500. And what I really learned at that time, and I know it's true, and I want to ask you just how much this is the case today, there was information just in terms of racing fans, how loyal they are to the industry, but also the amount of money they spend on merchandise. Yeah. It was the highest, I think, of any sport out there. So How much does merchandise tie into your business now and going forward?
We have great brands, right? So you've heard of Hot Rod, you've heard of MotorTrend, you may have heard of Four Wheeler or Super Street or Lowrider. Those are actually our brands. They're not like generic terms. So I think there's a lot more we can do with those brands that are iconic brands that we have right now. Merchandise is, you know, a six-figure business for us, but it should be a seven-figure one. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot we can do and tie that into a membership and tie that into a club. But what I will say is that people aren't going to wear, and each of you may feel the same way, you're not going to wear a brand unless you have a real deep connection to it.
Agreed.
And so, you know, I think the merchandise is the result, actually, not the catalyst, right? Like, if you do it all right, if you give them value, if you do something that they feel connection to, then they're going to want to wear the brand. They're going to pay a premium for wearing the brand too. So, but we do already. There's so many people who want the brand.
Are you selling cars?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Linking to
We
selling
got a
cars?
question if we build cars or sell cars, but that's one of the only.
I know you
things
don't
we
build
don't
them.
do. Yeah, but no, we don't sell any cars. You know, we've sold a few of the project cars that we've built on shows, but that's about it.
Okay.
I think we should give away some of those cars and like a sweepstakes for members.
That would
too,
be awesome.
right?
Raise money
We just
for
have to be
charity.
careful legally because some of these cars you can't really drive. So I think we just
Oh, they're
have to
not
make,
street legal? People will like them even more.
Well, yeah, but then I think we just got to put a disclaimer that this is, I think, not an NFT, but this is like a collector's.
A show car.
Right. It's not something you drive down the road because, you know, certain cases.
Yeah, but you know they're going to
the
drive it
wheels
down
may-
the road anyway.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But
well,
legally,
as long as
you're
they
okay.
sign everything appropriately.
So let's go to a couple questions. We do have time here. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll repeat the question from the audience. Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Repeat the. Did you hear the question? Because I didn't hear.
I didn't get it
Something
all.
about private email. Oh, you have a mic. Thank you, Louis.
About that, thank you. How important is your daily email to your customers that you send? Do you send a daily email that says this is for you? Is it AI driven or is it? How does it work? Because it seems to be very effective.
I think
Sounds like you got a fan right there.
Well, that's great. No, I think you're right. I think we all can think of someone in our inbox now who's abused versus found the right balance of communication too. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the way through is one that feels a little bit more personalized, and it has to be a little bit more AI oriented too. So what we do currently is we have a daily newsletter. We reach out on video. We reach out maybe once or twice a week, but it's not personalized. And I think the more information we can get about individuals on what cars matter most to them, I think the better equipped we're going to be to email them about the latest stories, updates, imagery, videos. So the answer is that I think it's very important. It's very important to be able to unsubscribe as much as it is to subscribe because you have to give them real value. But I would love to be talking to them at least 3 times a week.
3 times a week. Interesting. Another question? So I'll ask. Sure. Go ahead, sir. So the question is, how much content is self-produced versus outside content you're licensing?
Yeah. So I'm proud of that. I mean, I would say that about 70 to 80% of the content is produced in-house or with our production companies or greenlit through us. We do a small percentage of content that's licensed. But I think if you look at our biggest shows, from Roadkill and Dirt Every Day to Kevin Hart's Muscle Car Crew or Top Gear America, which is coming out with the 2nd season this summer, all of that's produced specifically just for the service.
When it comes to that content you're producing, a topic like this or any topic like this that's niche where there's real interest, being authentic obviously matters. I know you'll agree with that. So are most of the people that's producing the content, are they also car fans? They are.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are. I think I came into the business and I had a lot to learn, and I'm asked all the time, was I a car fan? I'm certainly one now. But we have a really generous staff who loves cars, and they're not going to talk down to you about what you don't know. It's really we hire people, And if you know people like this that are passionate about the category and who want to share that passion and not show off. And so, yeah, I think we have people who are producing really authentic programming and that work at the company because they share that interest level. And, you know, but we also accept a lot of people who are just really intrigued or interested in the topic for the most part too. So the programming too, for what it's worth, and we didn't really talk about it much, varies. Like on linear or television, the type of programming that resonates a little bit more is the restoration or the more highly produced content. The content that resonates more on the streaming service is a little bit, it's not more authentic, that'd be really unfair, but it's a little raw, it's a little low buck build, it's a little
quicker produced.
Yeah, and ingenious in the kind of ways that they're solving problems too, as opposed to some of these kind of breathtaking restorations that we do on TV. But we are seeing the programming work in both directions.
Well, you know your audience.
Yeah.
You know what they want.
Yeah, so that's nice that they don't cannibalize each other too. Not yet.
I was going to ask, is that coming down the line, do you think?
Yeah, I think we've been expecting that to happen for years.
We
and
have,
it just hasn't happened. We keep saying that TV is going to be dead and that everyone's going to go to streaming, and I think we've learned that they're specifically around live. You know, we have auctions, 160 hours of auctions with Mecum. We have 24 hours of Le Mans. Those things are they do work on streaming. They're absolutely great, but they can be events. And they naturally work as events on linear because the whole infrastructure is there. There's a certain expectation. There's a certain programming. There's a certain kind of collective experience that happens with TV. So TV is really very powerful in a lot of ways. But we've been at this for 4 years, 5 years in doing direct to consumer as well too, because we knew early on that it had to be.
We've got time for one more question. Gentleman, has a microphone.
Is this on? Oh, Brett Sappington with Interpret. For your content, are your content creation costs going up, down, staying the same, and similar for customer acquisition costs? Up, down, stay the same?
The content costs, it depends on what medium it's for. I mean, in general, the content costs are flat to up for streaming, long form, and linear, but not significantly so. But actually, we've been able to create lots and lots of shorter form content where the costs have been significantly lower. So the answer is both, but I would say that for the most part, if you want to do long form programming and you want to do it well enough, it's going to be the same to slightly higher too. But we do it pretty efficiently too. We don't spend nearly the level of money that people, I can't disclose the amounts, but we're pretty efficient in how we create, you know, we try to put it in a 42-minute or thereabouts a stack just so we could use it for TV too, but often our programs will be 20, 22, 23, 35, 36 minutes, whatever it takes to tell the story. On the marketing side of things too, we don't spend above our LTVs, so we know exactly how much our long-term value is for our customers. We know that they stay for, you know, 13 or 14 months. We know what that's worth on a monthly basis, and we know that we can't spend more than that for a subscription acquisition cost. So we're pretty mindful of that. And then we blend it, and we have really good organic. So when you have so much social, and when you have so much of a great brand like ours, which we're very thankful for, your ratio of paid to organic is better than most. So we'll see 2 to 1, 3 to 1 ratios on organic to paid, meaning that for every person we pay for, if we pay, this is not the number, but if we pay $20 or $30 for that customer because we know that person will bring in $20 or $30, then we'll get 2 more customers for 0, right? Because they see the awareness or they know the brand. And then as a result, if you do a blended subscription acquisition cost of those 3 customers, it actually is efficient.
Well, I'm afraid we're out of time. We have a countdown clock here and it says less than 30 seconds. I feel like we're in the start line here, so I think it goes well with the car metaphor. But
thank you. I didn't use any car metaphor.
I know you didn't.
Very hard.
I know.
I wanted to say, you know, the rubber meets the road, or shifting into gears, or look under the hood, or I didn't do any of that.
You were good with that.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. If you have additional questions for Alex, just come up afterwards. Happy to take your questions. We are kicking off for lunch now. Lunch will be for the next 45 minutes, and then we'll start the sessions back up. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.